Benvenuti.
Woo! It's the boy, Bubba, let's coming through. Hella clutch, flawless, can't be touched. It's your boy, Bubba, let's. Yeah, I need that hot take. I need the truth and everything that is not fake. So tell me.
Welcome back, Bubba Bunch, to another edition of the Bubba Let's Sports Podcast, episode 182, and today's a spooky edition of the podcast. That was terrible, but yes, it is Halloween. Happy Halloween to all you guys out there. Hopefully you're staying safe, especially for my El Paso people. I know there's been a hectic amount of headlines going around El Paso right now, so stay safe, take care of each other, take care of yourself. But yeah, I hope these podcasts are getting you through the day, getting you through the weekend. I know that 2-week order is up in the air right now, but we'll figure it out together, right? It's not that good over here either, but Texas. So anyways, let's focus on the positives here. Now, for the Halloween weekend that it is, why not have the spookiest, the most disturbing, and most fearful matchup of the week of the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football? Now, that's pretty scary to me because nobody wants to watch that. And if you're like me and you have to watch it for podcast reasons, it's not going to be pretty, right? But you know what I was thinking about? Before we actually get into it, I had an idea. Since it's unbearable to watch these games sober and to watch them just face value, why not, for one of the worst games that we're going to probably see all year long, with the two worst teams in the NFL, why not also make it a live stream event where we're on the road to 100 subscribers? We were at 88, now we're at 87. Whoever unfollowed, whoever unsubscribed, I'm going to write you a strongly worded letter. But until then, let's move on. I digress. So at 87 subscribers, which I appreciate so much, and we're like over 1,200 listens on the audio platforms. I love you guys so much for that. Why not do a live stream to get our subs up? But then every time that we see a bad play by either the Eagles or the Cowboys, blown coverage, a missed snap, a botched snap, a penalty, blown coverage, whatever the case may be, we take a swig, we take a drink. And I feel like if you're watching me watch this game, which I'm going to yell, I'm going to be upset. But I can't watch these games just by itself. Why not watch me get drunk by the end of the first quarter? Because that's what's going to happen. And we just enjoy our time together. How about that? I'm going to go on Twitter. I'm going to go on Instagram. I'm going to see what the feel is on this. If it's good, if it's a resounding yes, then we're going to do it on Sunday Night Football. First live stream of any NFL game this year. But we haven't done a live stream in a while. So why not do it, have fun with it, and enjoy our company? But we'll save that for another time. I'll let you guys know if I will do that on all our social media platforms, including the Bubba Let's Sports Podcast on Twitter. It'll be the Bubba Let's at Bubba Let's Pod on Twitter. So if you can give that a follow, I would deeply appreciate it. Make sure to follow the podcast on all platforms. Give me money through anchor.fm/BubbaLet's. I think, that's pretty self-explanatory. And make sure to donate to Irvin's Cancer Treatment. I think we are well above $16,000 out of $20,000. We're really close to his goal for his cancer treatment. I've been keeping in touch with him, just seeing how he's doing. And, man, I love that guy so much and all that he supported the podcast. So the more we can do for him, the more he'll be in good spirits and he'll come back stronger than ever. So, once again, Irving, we're thinking about you, buddy. Get better. As far as the Eagles versus Cowboys preview, we're also going to be talking about the moves they did earlier this week. And, let's all accumulate this into one episode, starting with the injury report on the Eagles versus the Cowboys. Starting with the Eagles, who have been dealing with a lot of injuries, and their list is pretty long. But we'll focus on the main key players in this game. Two of the most injury-plagued teams in the NFL. and it shows in the report. But for the Eagles, let's talk about the guys that are not listed at the moment, but have a strong chance of playing on Sunday, especially Lane Johnson, who is their first or second best offensive lineman alongside Jason Peters. And he's been dealing with a lot of injuries, ankle, knee. He's been sidelined for a few games, and especially last week against the Giants, he did have to come out. But he's a full participant in practice for Friday. Not listed as anything for Sunday night, but he looks to be ready to go. Malik Jackson with a quadricep injury, full participant as well. Looks to be good to go. Vinny Curry, who has been on the IR list for quite a while now, is a full participant in practice. He's looking good illness-wise, but nothing listed. I don't know. He's still on IR as of right now. I haven't seen anything that says otherwise, so we'll see what happens with one of their best defensive linemen, one of the best defensive linemen in football. We move on to the corners. So Crevan LeBlanc, quadricep injury, did not participate on Friday. He is going to be out for this football game. So Avonte Maddox will take over those snaps. Who else? We got Jannard, Avery, and Nathan Gary, who have been put on IR, I believe, reading these articles. And then we see on the offensive side of the ball, Alshon Jeffrey is out with a calf injury, and Miles Sanders is out again with the knee injury. So it's up to Boston Scott to take over the backfield. And look, I think that is better for the Eagles overall because of the fact that I've never really understood how Miles Sanders incorporates himself into this offense, considering that Sproles was the best running back for years in Philadelphia, and now that he's gone and Scott has taken over, a low center of gravity type of guy, shorter guy, but more agile and speedy. I think this fits best to the Philadelphia Eagles offense, and I think the Cowboys will have a really tough time of covering a guy like that, so agile that can break tackles because he's so fast. And I think if you're a fantasy owner and you're looking at the waivers and seeing Scott as a guy available, I think it's a great pickup for just 1 week against a bad Cowboys defense. So keep that in mind when you're looking at your fantasy team. Now let's look at the other side of the spectrum with the Cowboys. Andy Dalton's going to be the biggest name out of anybody on this list with a concussion protocol this week after that brutal hit by Bostic in last week's game against the Washington football team. No, suspension, no fine for that at all. And it's been a talking point for the Cowboys that none of those players really backed him up or really fought for Andy Dalton. It's just a bad football team in general. And it's tough for a guy like Andy Dalton, who is well respected around the league. And I have no disrespect to Andy Dalton, and I have no hate for Andy Dalton, but he's a backup quarterback, and that's all he'll ever be, in my opinion, of how good he is in the NFL. But I don't want this to happen to him. This is not how you should go out in your first start or second start as a Cowboys player when you really want to play for a team like this. He's going to be doubtful, and you could downright say that he's going to be out for this football game. So it's Ben DiNucci time. And if you're on Twitter, if you're on Instagram, and you don't know that joke, you're missing out, because I love that meme where these trades are happening, where you're trading Russell Wilson for Ben DiNucci. I just like saying Ben DiNucci. All right, I'll stop. But that is just hilarious on Twitter. So Ben DiNucci's era is starting, and he's really excited, man. They got him in the 7th round out of James Madison. It's tough to say what James Madison brings to the table on film because there's not much of it online. And I've only seen one game. I saw maybe one half of Ben DiNucci play. He's a 7th round draft pick out of James Madison who doesn't even play against strong competition. It's against the FBS. And I mean, we'll see what happens, right? There's been a lot of optimism and a lot of hype behind Ben DiNucci this week because you see Zeke, who's like, honestly, I haven't seen a lot about him. But then you look at him in practice and you're like, this guy actually brings a lot to the table. They're saying that they're doubting his running ability, which is very underrated, assumably. And they say that he's really excited and he's been doing really good in practice, and Mike McCarthy's going that way for this week. So we'll see what happens for the young rookie quarterback in Ben DiNucci. Chris Jones, their punter, abdomen injury, limited in practice on Friday. We'll see about him. Zach Martin, who's been dealing with a concussion over the last 2 weeks under concussion protocol, and that shoulder stinger in the game 2 weeks ago. He's a full participant in practice this week. Looks to be ready to go. They need him, especially since how bad that offensive line played on Sunday against the Washington football team. And you have Xavier Woods in the secondary. Non-injury related position on the injury report list, did not participate on Wednesday, but was full participant on Thursday and Friday. There was the assumption that this could deal with the moves that were done earlier in the week with Everson Griffin, with Don Terry Poe, and Darryl Worley, but as far as right now goes, I don't see anything moving for Xavier Woods, even though I would like to. But we'll see what happens on Sunday. Let's talk about the game itself. Look, I think Ben DiNucci will start pretty hot in this game, considering that there's not really much film on him. The Eagles don't know how to prepare for Ben DiNucci and how that game plan is going to work. Now, if we're taking on just the past and the statistics, all the film that we have on the Dallas Cowboys over the last year and a half, we're talking about a team that without Dak Prescott, they go back to their old formula of this is going to be ran through the offensive line, and we got to run the ball with Ezekiel Elliott. The way that Ezekiel Elliott has ran that ball the last few weeks, and the way that offensive line has played, that game plan is doomed from the beginning. We saw that against Washington, who has a phenomenal defensive line, and it showed on Sunday. And look, the Eagles aren't better than that, but they're definitely not something to sleep on their defensive line. They're going to bring the blitz. Jim Schwartz has done a phenomenal job against this Cowboys team to blitz heavy, and they don't know how to pick it up well, especially with a brutal offensive line plagued with injuries. And, of course, I don't feel like coaching-wise, Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy do a very good job of preparing and adapting to the blitz against Jim Schwartz and this Eagles defense. If they're going to bring the blitz by a safety, by a corner, I don't think the Cowboys expect it. And they're going to run through their offensive line and through their running game. This is all going to be done through Ezekiel Elliott. And if they can't get the ball rolling early, then you put Ben DiNucci in a tough spot to make tough throws. And it's set up for failure from the very beginning like it has been for the last 2 weeks. And you can't go into these football games thinking, we're going to be very hesitant and very complacent with Ben DiNucci because he's a rookie. Look, when you look around the league and you say Justin Herbert, you see Tua, you see all these different guys, and you're saying, like, even in those situations against formidable opponents, like considering Justin Herbert in his first start, minutes before the game even started, he had to go against the Kansas City Chiefs offense. And the first play, he goes wide out to Keenan Allen. He misses the throw, but he sets the tone that I'm not going to be scared. I'm not going to be safe with this football. I'm going to make those opportunities come to life, and I'm going to take those chances because it's a part of our offense. We can't just be complacent and go through the running game. It's set up for failure at that point. So if the Cowboys go into that game and on first and down, they run the same exact running play they do all year long, you're just going to expect another 59 minutes and 50 seconds of the same exact Dallas Cowboys team. Do I see it going the way of the Giants game from a few weeks ago? Yes, but not as high scoring. Considering that the Eagles against the Giants last week had to come back, this team isn't better in any way. I think these two teams are very matched up very well, and it's not going to be fun to watch. I really don't think so. It's going to be scrappy. It's going to be ugly to watch. But at the end of the day, someone's got to win this division. Someone's got to win this game, and I don't want to watch this. It's bad defensive play on both sides. The offense struggled to get it going. They're going to be sluggish at first. For the Cowboys, what they need to do in order to win this football game is to create turnovers. Look, even if you score 14 points, 20 points, as long as you win the turnover margin, I think whoever wins the turnover margin will win this football game. And of course, you look at the Cowboys, who have the worst turnover margin in football, and their record speaks for itself. But considering that both of the teams have struggled this year, and you go into this football game that Carson Wentz throws interceptions a lot. He causes a lot of turnovers. You have a defense that doesn't create turnovers, that doesn't get a lot of turnovers. If they can create a hostile environment on their defense to put Carson Wentz in a tough spot, in a very uncomfortable situation, I think you can do that all game long. Even if you win by 3 and it's a 12-9 game, it's a win. It's an ugly win, but you'll take it if you're the Dallas Cowboys, because at the end of the day, it is a win in your division, and it gets you closer to the divisional title, and see what happens in the playoffs. I'm not that optimistic, but it's what you want to hear out of Mike McCarthy. This is not what we expected it to be this year, especially with the moves we've done in the last few days. But let's take it as the season starts now. Forget about the season. Forget about all that's happened. You got beaten by a team that doesn't have even a name on their on NFL.com, and then you get beaten by other teams by like 40, by 30. Let's just forget about everything. Let's look at our young guys and see what we can do with them and just go on from there. See if we can have some potential, some good things, some optimistic things to look forward to in the next few weeks. And with the bye week coming about soon, hey, we'll see what happens. It's not going to be a pretty game to watch against the Steelers next week, but as long as you can get the win tonight, on Sunday night, then great. You'll take that. So defense is going to be the main factor because you're not going to expect a lot out of this offense. Now, do I expect Ben DiNucci to throw a touchdown in his first drive? I do think so. I think they can get the ball rolling pretty quickly, and if they can run no huddle, if they can run a fast-paced offense at first and get the Eagles on their toes, then yes, I think they can do some good things early on before they start to adjust. And then from that point on, it's up to the defense. For the Eagles, I mean, let's see what Carson Wentz does. Go to your great guys. Look at Scott. Build yourself around that offensive line that is coming back healthy in a sense. But look at Greg Ward. Alshon Jeffrey's going to be out for this game. So I don't know where Dallas Goedert fits into this offense right now. I think he's still on IR. I could be wrong. But Greg Ward has been doing pretty well. Look at Scott for a lot of plays, even if it's just a simple dump pass, a simple out route. Just look at some of those things. Keep it simple. Don't create turnovers. Don't be the same Carson Wentz you've been all year long. Because if it is the case that where the Cowboys defense gets 2 or 3 turnovers, it's game for Carson Wentz. My overall prediction for this game, I mean, maybe, let's say 20-17 Eagles. I don't think the Cowboys win this football game. I really don't. I do think the Eagles are a better team right now, and they're better coached than the Cowboys. And with the things that the Cowboys need to look into on their defensive line, and their young guys are going to get some chances, it's going to need to take some time to develop. But overall, this defense is still crappy. This offense with Ben DiNucci will start off good and then die off. They'll figure out the game plan soon enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't expect any explosiveness out of this football game. I think it'll be an ugly football game to watch, and we're gonna take a lot of drinks in this game. Even if you are playing the game or not, I think if you're a Cowboys fan, you're gonna take drinks. So, 20-17 Eagles, and it's not gonna be a pretty review to talk about on Monday. Let's briefly talk about the moves that were made by the Dallas Cowboys. And I mean, I hate to be a broken record here, but I told you so. How many weeks did I say that Everson Griffin and Dontari Poe are just bodies? They don't bring anything to the table, and it's very disappointing to see free agency not work out in the favor of the Dallas Cowboys, because these were great moves on paper. I think if anybody, any team that needed the help that the Cowboys needed on their defensive line to stuff the run on the inside and to get to the quarterback, they would have looked at these two guys, top of their list, and say Everson Griffin, who was one of the top leaders in sacks last year with the Minnesota Vikings, part of a dominant group last year, and then a Dontari Poe, who is a veteran in this league that can stuff the run and is known for that, for his big size. You're thinking, great, alongside Gerald McCoy before the injury happens, and the guys that they're going to bring back this year, especially Randy Gregory later on in the year, this defensive line could be the most dominant force in football. They can compete against the Washington football team as far as how stacked they are up front. And with Jim Tomsula leading the way, oh my God, this is a great move by the Cowboys. But sometimes the moves don't work out. Did it have to be this bad? No. I didn't expect it to be this bad. I didn't expect it at the level of Michael Bennett. But you got to look at it this way. You know how bad you have to play for the Cowboys, who have said all year long, we like our guys. And they took out HaHa Clinton Dix even before the first game because of how great Darian Thompson and how great Xavier Woods looked in training camp. They said, we don't need HaHa. And they were completely wrong about that. They thought Daryl Worley was a starting cornerback. They thought that Anthony Brown, Chidobe Awuzie would be enough. They felt that Reggie Robinson doesn't even have to be on the starting lineup. He doesn't have to get ready to play. And then with all the injuries that go up front, you think, oh, okay, well, they don't even need to use Tyron Crawford or Antoine Woods anymore. They're not even letting Neville Gallimore see in the field because they like their guys. You know how bad you have to play for you to get cut, even though they like their guys. You are the first ones cut out of a terrible group in their defensive unit. Let's start off with Everson Griffen, who, personally, that trade makes complete sense. Because you know for a fact that with Everson going to Detroit, which they need the help up front, he is going to start racking up those sacks. Just something about the Cowboys and players that have been there a while or just be there for a year and then they move on. A la Jeff Heath, Kerry Hyder even, who has been so efficient at pass rushing. I think he's like top 10 in efficiency this year, and as far as QB hits, I mean, Kerry Hyder wasn't even a starter on the Cowboys, and now he's just balling out. I don't even know where he is right now, but I just saw the stat that he's doing really well, and I'm so excited for him because I felt he was underutilized in Dallas. You know, even the cornerbacks that did so terrible. Morris Claiborne wins a Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs. You look at Brandon Carr, who was really doing well in Baltimore. Like, all these examples are just leading to, like, why doesn't it work in Dallas? So I'm thinking that Everson Griffen, who did great things in Minnesota, who has done great things in his career, didn't really work out in Dallas, is now going to go to Detroit, who's a defensive-minded team with Matt Patricia, who is on the up and up. They've won 2 in a row. I think they're getting a hold of things as far as personnel-wise and communication with their coaches. I feel like with Everson Griffen, who can just come in immediately and bring on the pass rush, who fits a better scheme for their pass rushers, will have 3 or 4 sacks in the next few weeks. But then you look at the other side and you think, okay, the Cowboys get a 6th-round pick, doesn't really do much. But what I like about Everson Griffen leaving is now that it opens up the ability for guys like Bradley Anae, who was their draft pick out of Utah, and you know how I feel about Bradley Anae in the review for their draft class and their anticipation for the season. It's nice to see him make the roster. I didn't expect him to do so, but I do think fundamentally he's a great pass rusher. He has great hands. The size is a little bit of an issue, but I feel like if he brings the agility and the speed to that position alongside Aldon Smith and Randy Gregory, great. Also, Dorrance Armstrong, who out of Kansas from a few years ago, they have not utilized him enough. I feel like he's a better version of Taco Charlton with his length, his speed, his agility. They haven't used him enough, and I feel like Dorrance Armstrong brings something to the table. When he is on the field, he's a difference maker. So I would love to see Armstrong get a few more snaps this week. I know they slowly eased Randy Gregory into the game last week against the Washington football team, and I don't know if that was pre-planned or if they just didn't utilize him in the way that they wanted to, or they just didn't know what the fuck they're doing. But overall, Randy Gregory will get more snaps alongside Aldon Smith. But I would like to see those young guys get their chance now that Everson Griffen is gone. So it works out in both favors. I think this trade is great for both sides. Don Terry Poe, now the rumor, not even the rumors, the news and the reports that come out say that Jerry Jones let him go due to his weight, and he was 12, 13 pounds overweight coming to the season. Now let's just be honest, people. How does that make sense when it's week 7 week 8, and now the weight's the issue. That man's always been that size since week 1, since going into training camp. And when the best thing that you can say about him after week 7 is he's a veteran, he's been playing like this since day 1. And I don't understand how you have guys like Tyron Crawford, who is starting to grow pretty dull with me. Antoine Woods is probably their best inside tackle, and he's starting to get more snaps as we go along. I think Neville Gallimore should get a lot more snaps. He's not the strongest, but he's so quick on his feet. He has great hands. And even himself, he said that, look, I'm not the best. I'm not the greatest. And I still have a lot to improve on, but I'm just going to put my head down and go with the flow. I'm going to learn and do what I do best. And I think in the next few years, he will be a prominent factor in this defense. Justin Thompson had a terrible game against Washington, as what I saw in the film. So the fact that Dontari Poe was the starter of this team for 7 weeks, I should say, is so embarrassing to think that he's been overweight for 7 weeks and you haven't done a damn thing about it. The man brought nothing to the table. And I mean, like, Everson Griffin at least had moments where I'm like, okay, that's probably why they got him. But Dontari Poe did nothing. I mean, he would be locked up with a center, with a guard, every single play. And it was so hard to watch him on film. It was embarrassing and it was disgusting to watch out of a veteran guy in Dontari Poe. So I'm so glad they let go of him. They should have done it weeks ago. And they were looking to trade both Dontari Poe. They were successful with Everson Griffin, but they wanted to get rid of Dontari Poe. They couldn't find a dealer, so they just let him go. And they also did the same thing with Darryl Worley, who statistically was one of the worst cornerbacks in the NFL. There is nothing nice I can say about Darryl Worley. There is absolutely nothing. I don't see how he makes another team. At best, a practice squad. But as a starter in the NFL, I don't see how you put Darryl Worley on your roster and say, that's our guy. Darryl Worley gave up over 130 passer rating this season. I can't even tell you how bad that is. That is almost a perfect passer rating when you throw in the direction of Darryl Worley. When you look at the Seahawks game, if you look at the Browns game, if you look at the... What was the other game that he... Oh, the Cardinals game. Oh, dear God. It's more to the Browns than the Cardinals game, where I can't even explain to you why he was on the field. I really don't understand it. So now that he's cut, he's gone. I've seen some names around the league that the Cowboys may want to go after. Eli Apple, he got cut from the Panthers. Reggie Robinson, who they drafted in the 4th round this year out of Tulsa, maybe he gets his chance finally to get some snaps. Maybe that's the best idea. I want to see what Reggie is all about. I didn't see a lot of film on him. I know that he was pretty good in certain situations. Like, he was really good in zone coverage, and he's got to fit the right system. I think right now when you're looking at the Cowboys team and they're focused more on zone coverage so they don't give up the big plays, I think Reggie fits that pretty well. He doesn't have the fastest feet. He doesn't have the fastest agility, and I wish he can open up that stance a little more from what I saw in film. So man coverage could be an issue with Reggie Robinson. But when you have Trevon Diggs, who's been up and down this season, Anthony Brown, who's been back, Chidobe Awuzie, I'll keep an eye on him. But Reggie Robinson looks like the guy to bring in and say, hey, look, we'll just give him a shot. I think him being a healthy scratch these last few weeks has been a bad decision from our part, and Mike Nolan's got to do something to at least change it up. And that's the thing about these moves that I appreciate the Cowboys doing, because at the beginning of the season when these moves were made, I said, at least you're trying something new. At least you're making the moves to make it seem like you want change. And if it doesn't work out 9 out of 10 times, it may not work. But that 10th time, you could find yourself a guy that you have for the next 5 or 6 years and you don't have to deal with him anymore. Going forward, who would I like to see the Cowboys get rid of? Xavier Woods is atop that list. I think we should move on for Xavier Woods. We gave him his opportunity the last year and a half, and it hasn't worked out. Darian Thompson is right there with him. I think you can give him a little bit more time to see where he goes, and if he doesn't improve, look, Donovan Wilson has showed us some aggression, and then you also have Steven Parker, who we can go forward with because the season's done if they lose this game. The season is absolutely finished because there's no way they finish the rest of the season with more than a win. So maybe give the other guys some looks. Up front, I think Jalen Smith is really close to that top list. He's right there with Xavier Woods. The contract, the money that's involved in the play has not been balanced. It's not made any sense. And you can get something out of Jalen Smith. Someone will pick him up and make him a good linebacker in their unit, but he won't be the leader. And I feel like that's fine for Jalen Smith. It's a great story, and I'm so proud of him for making it this far, but it's time to move on. I know it won't happen because Jerry Jones likes to be emotional with his guys, with his draft picks, and it's a relationship that he's built with Jalen Smith, believing in him since Notre Dame and that bad injury to his knee, to the nerve damage and everything, seeing him progress in his second year with the Dallas Cowboys. I think there's a relationship there that Jerry doesn't want to let go of, and it's very similar to Jason Garrett. It's very similar to Sean Lee, who's starting to get back on the practice field. All these three linebackers, these are guys that are injury plagued. They're banged up. They don't bring the same value they once did, but Jerry doesn't want to let go of them. If he wants to be serious about being a competitive football team going forward, Jalen Smith cannot be it. And I feel like if you look at some other guys around the league that can bring something to the table, veteranship or just a young group going forward, if you can build around them, I think they'll be fine. But right now, Jalen Smith just isn't the guy. He's just not, and he's not worth the money, so you got to let him go. You have to. Up front on that defensive line, I mean, I'm pretty okay with what's going up front. Gerald McCoy hopefully wants to come back next year as a Cowboy. Oh, God. I wouldn't mind moving on from Tyron Crawford. That's been a long-lasting relationship that has been dealt a lot of money, but I don't feel like it's been worth it. I love Tyron Crawford. I think he's an amazing guy. But what has transpired on the field has not been worth it according to his contract. And I could say the same thing about DeMarcus Lawrence, but I feel like DeMarcus Lawrence doesn't put up the stats that people want. He is a presence on that defensive line, especially in the running game. So you can't let him go. If it's a good trade that going forward you think, hey, this can build our future pretty well if we get really good draft picks out of him, be open to that. It's the same thing I feel with Ezekiel Elliott. But for now, I don't think he's the issue. They can extend Aldon Smith. He'll be okay. Offensively, I've heard the rumors about Michael Gallup. And there are reports that say that the Cowboys are not interested in dealing him in the trade deadline. Is a good sign for me because they underutilize Michael Gallup. He is a Dez Bryant 2.0 in my opinion that can win those deep balls, win those matchups, be physical. He doesn't have the injuries to show for it yet, knock on wood. But these last few weeks, I felt like he's just been there on the offense when he has really good matchups with the second or third guy. And CeeDee Lamb hasn't played well either. Amari Cooper has been taking a lot of the targets and a lot of the receptions. But look, they have a future in their wide receivers. If they want to move on from somebody, look, I'm not a huge fan of that contract with Amari Cooper. I know he's the best wide receiver they have. But put a little more trust in CeeDee Lamb because he's going to be there for 4 or 5 years. You put a lot of trust in Michael Gallup, who you won't pay big money for, but you'll have to pay him eventually. Cedric Wilson, for me, I love some Boise State Broncos, and I love Cedric Wilson. You saw him in the Seahawks game do really well. With Dak Prescott, they can really build a strong relationship with Cedric Wilson. Noah Bryant can be there too. He's had his moments. But you also have the weapons that are going to come back. Dalton Schultz, who's doing a really good job. Blake Jarwin, who's going to come back from that injury with the big contract, but he's going to be worth it. I know that for a fact. And whether it's Ezekiel Elliott or they want to move on from that, get some good draft picks out of him, get rid of that salary, Tony Pollard can be there. Rico Dowdle, you know that I like even a guy like Bo Scarborough coming back from Detroit, who they drafted a few years ago, who can bring that physicality to the Cowboys backfield. This group doesn't need the big contracts. They don't need the huge money. They just need a solid foundation in their offensive line. And the way that you do that is by moving on from some of these guys. Zach Martin's getting down to the wire. Tyron Smith is getting down there. You build around Tyler Biotish. You build around Lyle Collins, who's going to come back next year. You look at the draft, maybe look at Connor McGovern and go with him going forward. I'm not a huge fan of Connor Williams, but we'll see. We'll see how many years Joe Looney has left in his career, but I think going with a offensive lineman in this draft is a necessity. And if you get a higher draft pick by getting rid of Ezekiel Elliott or Jalen Smith, I think that's the way to do it. But that is the number one priority going to this offseason is offensive line. From that point forward, Mike Nolan's going to be out of there, in my opinion. Get a new coach, get a new defensive coordinator. They're not going to fire Mike McCarthy after year one. They can't do that. You give 2 or 3 years. That's my statement. That's my what's the right word for it? My rule for a head coach, no matter if it's the Cowboys or not. Give them 2 or 3 years, unless it's really bad. I don't think it's that bad in Dallas. Injuries have plagued them. It's a bad front office, and it's just been a shit show of a 2020. So you can't really say this is the best that he can do as far as Mike McCarthy's job can go. But give him 2 or 3 years. If it doesn't work out, move on from that. But you definitely need a new defensive coordinator because it's not working out. It is not working. It's needing time and it's needing effort out of Mike McCarthy in general. But Mike Nolan and that scheme just does not work in Dallas. It doesn't work at all. So those are my thoughts. We're at halfway mark of the 2020 season, and those are my things about the Dallas Cowboys that they need to change, that they need to do going forward to have some chance of being a contender for the next 5 years or so. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Bubble Let Sports podcast. Happy Halloween, guys. Hope you enjoy it. Stay safe out there, please. I know it's going to be hard to trick or treat or do anything this weekend, but please be safe. Take care of each other. And we'll see you next time on the Bubble Let Sports podcast.
Yeah, hold on. Tell me who's your top 5 quarterbacks right now, dead or alive, huh? And how much do you care about a ring if the best player got carried by the team? Now, would you lose if it been a better draft pick? And do you cuss when your team get their ass kicked? Now, do you keep it classy?